She stands alone in front of the mirror, her breath shallow and uneven, her eyes wide but searching, as if the glass might suddenly speak a secret she has been trying to ignore for years. The room is silent except for the faint sound of her heartbeat pounding like thunder in her ears. Her reflection stares back, but something is wrong, something she cannot quite put into words. The face she sees is flawless at first glance, glowing with a kind of beauty that turns heads and stops conversations, but beneath the surface a shadow flickers, a silent scream hidden from the world. What is it that no one sees? What truth does the mirror hold that she dare not speak aloud tonight? As the moonlight spills softly through the curtains, she feels the weight of 1,000 gazes, all admiring, unaware of the silent battle raging behind her perfect smile. The question lingers like a ghost in the air. Who is she really behind the mask everyone adores? This is not just a reflection, this is a reflection of secrets, a mirror that does not lie but reveals a story buried deep within the cracks of porcelain skin and the sparkle of flawless eyes. Tonight, something changes, something shifts, as if the glass itself has a story to tell, and she is forced to listen. The room grows colder, the shadows lengthen, and the light begins to warp like a dream slipping from reality. Her eyes flicker nervously, the reflection wavers for a moment, then morphs into something else, something darker, a whisper of pain, a flicker of fear, a glimpse of a truth she has spent her whole life running from. Her hands tremble slightly as she reaches out to touch the surface, but the glass feels colder than ice, sending a shiver down her spine. The reflection no longer matches her movements perfectly. It smiles, but the smile is hollow, a mask hiding a storm raging beneath. The beauty that once felt like armor now feels like a cage, locking away the secrets no one is allowed to see. She blinks, fighting back tears, a storm of emotions crashing inside her heart. The mirror no longer shows the woman everyone admires, but someone else, someone broken, scared, and desperately holding on. The reflection has become a silent witness to a truth too heavy to bear. How did she get here? How did the world's gaze become both her greatest blessing and cruelest curse? The applause, the compliments, the endless admiration all feel like distant echoes drowning beneath the weight of what she hides. Her beauty was supposed to be her strength, but now it feels like a silent sentence trapping her in a prison of expectations and loneliness. The question burns hotter than ever. What lies beneath the surface that no one can see? What story does the reflection tell when the world looks away, when the lights dim and the crowds disappear? Tonight, the mirror is no longer a friend, but a judge, a relentless observer, exposing the fragile edges of a life lived in shadows. The woman stares deeper, searching for answers in the shifting shapes of her own image, but finds only more questions. Who is she without the beauty? Who would she be if the mask cracked and the truth spilled out into the light? The reflection waits patiently, daring her to face the parts of herself she has kept locked away. And so she stands there, frozen, caught between what she shows the world and what she hides beneath the surface, a story waiting to unfold, a mystery begging to be told. The mirror holds the secret, and it will not be silenced any longer. This is just the beginning of a journey into the heart of a truth that will change everything forever, a truth hidden behind the flawless face, admired by all but known by none. The story of a woman whose reflection reveals another truth. Will she find the courage to face what lies beneath, or will she keep running from the mirror's silent gaze? The answer waits patiently in the shadows, ready to break free. Before the mirror revealed its secret, she was the image of perfection, the woman everyone admired. In every room she entered, heads turned and whispers followed like a gentle breeze, stirring the air. Her beauty was not just skin deep, it was a presence, an aura that seemed to brighten even the darkest corners. Her hair cascaded like waves of silk, catching every ray of light. Her smile was radiant, warm, and effortless. Her eyes sparkled with a mysterious charm that made hearts flutter. In the bustling streets and elegant parties, she moved like a queen, commanding attention without ever demanding it. Her laughter was music that drew people closer, a melody woven with genuine kindness and subtle confidence. Everyone wanted to be near her, to catch a glimpse of the magic. She carried a magic that seemed almost otherworldly. Friends surrounded her like stars in a constellation, each one enchanted by her charm and grace. There was Anna, her childhood best friend, who had known her since the very first shy smile in kindergarten. Anna loved her fiercely, always the voice of reason and protection in a world that often misunderstood beauty. Then there was Marcus, the admirer, the one who watched from afar with eyes full of longing and respect. He was drawn not only to her appearance, but to the kindness that shimmered beneath the surface, a side few ever saw. Society adored her. She was the cover of magazines, the face on billboards, and the center of every conversation. Her Instagram was a cascade of flawless selfies, moments of joy captured with effortless elegance. The comments overflowed with praise. Beautiful, stunning goddess. She was everything everyone dreamed of being and more. But behind the sparkling facade, the world never noticed the cracks, the small moments when her smile faltered, when her eyes looked away too quickly. There were nights when the spotlight dimmed and the applause faded into silence. She would find herself lost in thoughts, her mind a maze of doubts and fears hidden behind the perfect mask. At family dinners, she was the pride of everyone, her parents boasting of her achievements and charm, but even there the pressure was relentless, expectations wrapped in love, but sharp enough to pierce her fragile heart. The questions about the future, the subtle comparisons to others, the silent demands to always be perfect weighed heavily on her shoulders. Her social circle was a whirlwind of events and appearances, a constant dance where everyone wanted to be seen with her, her beauty a ticket to a world of glamour and status. But in the quiet moments, the laughter sometimes felt hollow, the conversations shallow, a reminder that few truly knew her beyond the surface. Marcus was different, though. His eyes searched deeper. He saw the fleeting sadness, the hesitation in her gaze, the way she sometimes seemed to shrink inside herself despite the crowd. He wanted to reach out, but the walls she built were strong walls made of fear, vulnerability, and the harsh judgment of a world obsessed with appearances. Anna was her anchor, the one who stood by her through the chaos, the one who saw the late-night tears and the whispered fears. Yet even Anna struggled to break through the facade, the mask of perfection that protected her friend from a world that judged too quickly. Her beauty was both a gift and a burden, a double-edged sword that opened doors but also closed them with invisible chains. The admiration was intoxicating but also isolating, leaving her caught between being adored and feeling utterly alone. She had learned to smile through the pain, to laugh through the loneliness, to shine even when the light inside flickered weakly. But the mirror knew the truth. The mirror saw beyond the surface, beyond the flawless skin and sparkling eyes. It saw the battles waged in silence, the fears locked away, the wounds hidden beneath the beauty that captivated so many. The public adored her, but no one asked what it cost to carry such a heavy crown, what sacrifices were made behind closed doors, what battles were fought in the shadows of her perfect life. She was a queen of beauty in a kingdom of illusions, a shining star in a sky filled with darkness and doubt, but beneath the glittering surface was a woman longing to be seen, to be understood, to be loved for who she really was, not just for the image she projected. Her story was not just one of admiration, it was a story of survival, a delicate dance between light and shadow, between what the world wanted to see and what lay hidden deep inside. As the applause echoed and the lights shone bright, she carried her secret silently, waiting for the day when the reflection would reveal the truth, not just the beauty, but the story that had shaped her, the woman behind the mask. Behind closed doors, the perfect smile faded into shadows, the laughter turned into silence, and the bright lights of admiration dimmed to a lonely flicker. She found herself alone in the quiet of her room, staring again at the mirror that never lied but always demanded more. The face looking back at her was flawless, yes, but the eyes told a different story, a story of doubt, of fear, of a restless soul searching for something she could not name. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached out, touching the glass gently, as if trying to bridge the gap between the world she showed and the world she hid. The reflection stared silently, waiting, patient, yet unforgiving, revealing cracks in the armor she had carefully built over the years. Nights were the hardest when the world fell asleep and silence became loud. Her mind raced with questions, with memories, with fears that clawed at her from within. What if the beauty was just a mask? What if behind the perfection lay an emptiness too deep to fill? What if the mirror was right about the things no one dared to say? She remembered moments when the spotlight felt like a cage, when the eyes filled with admiration also carried whispers of judgment, when a compliment was a reminder of the pressure to always be flawless, to never show weakness or pain. The loneliness was suffocating, a heavy cloak draped over her shoulders, making each breath a struggle. Friends sometimes noticed the changes, the quiet moments when she seemed distant, when the sparkle in her eyes dimmed, but no one asked, no one dared to pierce the veil of perfection. She was afraid to reveal the cracks, afraid that the world would turn away if the truth was known. There were times when she would sit in front of the mirror for what felt like hours, tracing the lines of her face, searching for a glimpse of herself beneath the surface. The reflection wavered, sometimes showing flashes of the woman she wanted to be, the woman trapped inside the beauty, but other times it felt like a stranger stared back, a ghost haunting the glass. The weight of expectation was crushing, the endless cycle of appearances and judgment, leaving her gasping for air. She longed to scream, to break free, to let the world see the raw, imperfect woman behind the carefully curated image. But fear held her captive, fear of rejection, fear of losing the only thing she thought she had control over. The mirror became a battlefield, a silent witness to the war waged inside her heart, the reflection no longer a friend but a challenge, daring her to face the shadows, to confront the fears, to embrace the parts of herself she had kept locked away. Every day was a struggle to keep the facade intact, to smile for the cameras, to laugh with friends, to live a life that felt more like a performance than a reality. The admiration was a double-edged sword, cutting deep beneath the skin, reminding her that beauty was both a gift and a prison. She remembered a conversation with Anna one rainy afternoon when the clouds outside mirrored the storm inside, her voice barely a whisper. She had confessed the emptiness, the fear, the exhaustion. Anna listened without judgment, her eyes full of understanding and love. But even that moment of honesty was fleeting, swallowed quickly by the demands of the world waiting just outside the door. Marcus tried too. He wanted to reach her heart, to show her that she was more than the image, more than the beauty. But the walls were too high, the silence too thick, and the mirror held the secrets too tightly. The nights grew longer, the reflection darker, and the truth harder to ignore. She felt herself slipping like sand through fingers, losing grip on the identity she had built, losing sight of who she really was beyond the gaze of strangers and admirers. But somewhere deep inside, a small flicker of hope remained, a whisper that maybe one day the mirror would not just reveal the cracks, but also the strength, the courage, and the beauty born from the struggle. This was her silent fight, her hidden story, a battle waged in the quiet moments when no one was watching, a story waiting to be told, a truth longing to be seen. It was late one night when the world outside had fallen asleep, and the only sound was the steady ticking of the old clock on the wall. She stood in front of the mirror, the same mirror that had been her silent judge and witness for years. Her hands were cold, her heart pounding with a strange mix of fear and anticipation. The air in the room felt thick, heavy, as if the very atmosphere held its breath, waiting for something to unfold. Her eyes locked onto the reflection, as if searching for answers, or perhaps daring the mirror to reveal the truth she had avoided for so long. The familiar face stared back at her, but then something shifted. The glass seemed to ripple like water caught in a slow current. The light in the room flickered, casting eerie shadows that danced across the walls like ghosts whispering secrets. She blinked, trying to steady herself, but when her eyes opened again, the reflection was no longer the same. The smile that had once been warm and inviting twisted into something fragile and distant. The eyes, which sparkled with life, now seemed clouded with sorrow and fear. It was as if the mirror was peeling back the layers, revealing not the beauty everyone adored, but the pain everyone ignored. Her breath caught in her throat, the room spun slightly, and a cold shiver ran down her spine. The reflection's lips moved, but no sound came out, as if trapped in a silent scream. The glossy surface of the glass distorted her image, warping it into something unrecognizable, yet painfully real. She reached out instinctively, trying to touch the face in the mirror, but the glass felt like ice, sending a sharp jolt through her fingers. Her heart ached with a mixture of terror and sorrow. The woman she saw was not a stranger, but a part of herself she had denied for too long, a fragile, wounded soul hiding behind the mask of perfection. The room seemed to close in around her, the walls pressing tighter, as if the mirror's truth was suffocating her vision, blurred with tears that she refused to let fall. Her chest rising and falling in quick, shallow breaths. The air tasted metallic and heavy, filling her lungs with a strange bitterness that echoed the turmoil inside. In that moment, time seemed to stretch and bend, the seconds slipping into eternity as the reflection continued to shift, revealing glimpses of memories long buried. The laughter that once felt genuine, now hollow echoes. The tears wiped away in secret, the silent battles fought behind closed doors. Her fingers trembled as she traced the contours of the glass, the cold surface grounding her even as her mind spiraled into the depths of pain and confusion. The mirror no longer showed the flawless image admired by the world, but the raw, unfiltered truth of a woman struggling to survive her own reflection. The silence was broken only by the sound of her ragged breath and the distant hum of the city outside. The mirror's surface shimmered one last time before settling back into the familiar face she knew, but this time the smile was tinged with vulnerability and an unspoken plea for understanding. She sank to the floor, overwhelmed by the flood of emotions, the shock, the fear, the sadness, all crashing into a storm that left her trembling, yet strangely alive. The mirror had spoken its truth, and now she could no longer turn away. That night marked a turning point, a moment when the reflection was no longer just a surface, but a mirror to her soul, a silent confession carved into the fragile glass, reminding her that beauty was more than skin deep. It was a story written in scars and strength in fear and hope. As dawn crept through the window, casting soft golden light across the room, she sat still, her eyes fixed on the mirror, the weight of the night pressing down, but a new resolve beginning to flicker within. The journey ahead was uncertain, filled with shadows and light, but for the first time in a long time, she felt the stirrings of courage, the first fragile steps toward facing the truth reflected back at her. The truth hidden behind the flawless surface was more than anyone could imagine, more than a simple secret concealed beneath beauty. It was a deep wound carved into the very fabric of her existence, something that no mirror could fully capture. But this one night the reflection betrayed the silence. It unveiled the story no one had dared to speak. It started long ago, a chapter written in shadows and silence, when the world was kinder, or so she had hoped, but life had a way of twisting the brightest dreams into tangled nightmares. Her laughter, once free and easy, now carried the weight of memories that clung like chains, invisible yet unbreakable. Her reflection no longer just a face, but a canvas painted with the scars of an invisible battle, a battle fought in the quiet corners of her mind where darkness lingered like a thief stealing moments of joy and peace. The mirror showed her not just the beauty admired by millions, but the haunting traces of pain etched beneath the surface. There was the illness that whispered in the silence, a shadow that crept in slowly, robbing her of energy, of hope, of the light that once shone so brightly. She fought fiercely, hiding the exhaustion behind bright smiles, masking the trembling hands and racing heartbeats. The world saw only the surface, but the reflection revealed the truth no one wanted to face. The trauma, too, was there, hidden deep in the folds of memory, a wound that time had not healed, only covered with layers of perfection and denial. It was a ghost that haunted her waking hours, the silent scream behind the laughter, the tear that never fell. Her reflection bore the weight of a story too heavy for words, a story of survival and pain intertwined. As the mirror shifted, the reflection showed flashes of moments long past, the nights spent in darkness, the days filled with fear and doubt, the endless search for a way to heal, a way to breathe again. Her beauty was not a shield, but a fragile veil, barely holding the broken pieces together. Her heartache was a river running deep beneath the calm surface, the battles fought in silence, the nights spent wrestling with shadows. Her reflection, a silent witness to every tear, every whispered plea for relief. She had learned to hide it well, to smile through the pain, to dance through the exhaustion, but the mirror could not lie. It could not hide the cracks that ran deeper than skin and bone. The reflection was a map of her journey, a map marked with wounds and scars, but also with the strength born from enduring the storm. Her story was one of quiet resilience, a testament to the power of survival despite the odds, despite the beauty that captivated the world. She was a woman who had walked through fire, carrying the weight of invisible scars, a woman who had faced her demons even when the world refused to see them. The mirror held her truth, the truth that no one could deny, no matter how brightly the lights shone, no matter how many compliments were whispered behind closed doors. It was a truth that demanded recognition, a truth that begged for compassion, for understanding, for love beyond appearances. In that moment, the reflection was not just a face, but a story, a living poem of pain and hope, a reminder that beauty is complex, layered, and sometimes fragile, a story of a woman who dared to face the darkness, who refused to be defined by what she hid. The room felt charged with emotion, as if the very air vibrated with the intensity of her revelation. Her breath came in shallow gasps, tears slipped silently down her cheeks, not from sadness alone, but from the release of a burden carried too long. She touched the mirror again, feeling the cold glass against her palm, grounding her in the reality of the moment. A small smile broke through the tears, a fragile smile full of courage and acceptance. The journey was far from over, but the first step had been taken. The reflection no longer just showed beauty, it showed a woman reborn, a woman who embraced her truth, no matter how painful, no matter how complex, because sometimes the greatest beauty comes not from perfection, but from the strength to be real, to be raw, to be human. The morning light filtered softly through the curtains, casting gentle shadows across the room as she sat quietly facing the mirror, the silent witness to her darkest truths. No longer did she see just a flawless reflection, but a story unfolding, a journey beginning with acceptance and courage. The weight of denial that had held her captive began to lift, replaced by a fragile strength born from facing what she once feared. She reached out again, her fingers tracing the edges of the glass as if trying to hold onto this new reality. This was not just about beauty or appearances anymore, it was about reclaiming herself, the woman beneath the surface, the woman the mirror had finally revealed. Her heart ached with the pain of the past, but also pulsed with hope, the hope that healing was possible. Days turned into weeks, and with each morning, she took small steps forward, moments of doubt creeping in, but overshadowed by the desire to change, to grow, to live authentically. She sought out the support she had once shunned, reaching out to friends, to professionals, to anyone willing to walk beside her on this path. Anna became her steadfast companion, reminding her that strength was not the absence of vulnerability, but the courage to face it. Together they navigated the stormy seas of emotions, the setbacks and the small victories, each one a beacon lighting the way forward. Marcus watched with admiration, quietly offering his support, a reminder that she was not alone. The mirror remained a constant in her life, no longer a judge, but a partner reflecting not just the struggles, but the progress, the scars, transforming from wounds into symbols of resilience. The face she saw was no longer perfect, but real, alive, breathing with the complexity of a woman embracing her true self. She began to shed the layers of pretense, the masks worn for so long, replaced by a raw honesty that was both terrifying and freeing. The world outside still admired her beauty, but now she carried a deeper confidence, a quiet power that came from owning her story. There were days of darkness, days when the past threatened to consume her, but she met them with new tools, new strength, and the unwavering belief that she was worthy beyond appearances, worthy of love and happiness, just as she was. The journey was far from easy, the path winding and uncertain, but each step brought her closer to peace, closer to the woman she had always been beneath the surface, waiting to emerge. And in the quiet moments when she looked in the mirror, she no longer saw a stranger or a prisoner, but a survivor, a warrior, a woman who had faced the storm and found her way home. Months passed, and the woman who once feared the reflection now greeted it with gentle acceptance. The mirror that had once been a harsh judge became a friend, a reminder of how far she had come, how fragile yet fierce she truly was. Each day was a new chapter, a chance to rewrite the story she had believed for so long. Her beauty remained, but it no longer defined her. It was part of her, yes, but not the whole story. She learned to see herself through different eyes, to recognize the strength beneath the softness, the courage behind the quiet moments of doubt. She embraced the imperfections, the scars, the vulnerability that made her human and beautifully real. The whispers of insecurity that once haunted her faded into distant echoes, replaced by a quiet voice that spoke of worth and love, not measured by appearances, but by the depth of her spirit. The mirror reflected not just an image, but a soul, healing, growing, blossoming in ways she had never imagined possible. She found joy in small things, the way sunlight caught her hair, the sound of laughter shared with friends, the peaceful moments alone with her thoughts. She no longer ran from the reflection. Instead, she met it with compassion, curiosity, and grace, discovering new layers of herself with every glance. Her relationships shifted too, becoming deeper, more honest, grounded in truth rather than illusion. The people who stayed were those who loved her for who she was, not just for how she looked. The connections that once felt shallow now blossomed into bonds filled with warmth and authenticity. Sometimes the past whispered, still reminding her of the battles fought, but she no longer feared the shadows. Instead, she honored them as part of her journey, reminders of resilience and hope. Her reflection was no longer a mirror of pain, but a window into a soul transformed by love and acceptance. She stood taller, moved with a new confidence, walked through the world with the quiet power of someone who had faced her own darkness and emerged whole. Her story was no longer one of hiding, but of shining, a beacon for others who might be lost in their own reflections, searching for light. And when she looked in the mirror, she saw not just beauty, but truth, strength, and a fierce, gentle heart that refused to be broken. She smiled, knowing that the journey was ongoing, but she was ready to live fully, freely, and authentically. Now that you have walked this journey with her and seen beyond the surface, I want to ask you a question. What would your reflection reveal if it could speak the truth hidden beneath the image you show to the world? Is there a story waiting to be told, a secret longing to be understood, or a truth begging for acceptance? Take a moment and really think about it. Imagine standing in front of your own mirror. What do you see? Do you see strength or vulnerability, beauty or pain hidden beneath the surface? Everyone has a reflection that tells more than just how they look. It tells who they are, what they feel, and what they carry silently inside. If this story touched you, if it made you pause or think or even feel a little less alone, please show some love to this video by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world, and it helps stories like this reach more people who might need to hear them. And don't stop here. There is another video waiting for you right now on the screen, a story that dives even deeper into the human experience, that explores the hidden battles we all face. You don't want to miss it. Click and keep the journey going. Thank you so much for watching, for being part of the story, and for taking the time to reflect with me. Remember, your reflection is not just an image, it is a story waiting to be told, a story of strength, courage, and beauty that comes from being truly yourself. Until next time, take care, and never forget that the most important relationship you will ever have is the one you have with yourself.